Hello, everyone, and welcome. I have two announcements before we get to today's episode. Number one, as you can see, today is the Rosh Chodesh special. Starting every Rosh Chodesh, we're going to have a special episode. And number two is next week we are starting a Shemitah program, Heroes of the Land, which I'm going to be sitting with farmers, learning about their life story, how it is to keep Shemitah, what gets them through the year, and how they recover from it. It is going to be really, really amazing, so get ready for that. But now let's get to today's episode. I'm Yisrael Yudkowsky. You're listening to the Foundations podcast.
Bruchim Aboyim, everyone, to the beautiful project, the Rosh Chodesh project, founded and run by the founder of JFoundations, Yisrael Yudkowsky. I'm delighted to be able to have the schus to do this, and I want to give a very special thank you to Hashem Yisbarach that I do have this opportunity. And I'd like to give a special thank you to the one who runs JFoundations, who's being in the process of being marbit so much Torah to Klal Yisrael. I happen to be the lucky one to be his father, but Yisrael Yudkowsky, for all the amazing things he's doing, and we'd like to wish him success, hatzlacha, siyata d'shmaya, in all these projects and every other area. We should be zeicher to be a kli to bring Mashiach closer, Mitzvah Hashem. So this project, we're beginning to discuss about Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is a yontif that needs to be understood more clearly. It's sort of a hidden yontif. It's a yontif that we have again and again repeatedly throughout the year, and yet it needs to be more understood, appreciated for its meaningfulness. It's a yontif where we have a korban musaf, we have a tfilas musaf, a tzad in the Gemara that it's asur b'asiyas malacha, a chiyuv to be marbe besuda, and so on and so forth. So it's a special day. It's not just another day of the year. And yet, what's it all about? What's its message? What do we take from experiencing a Rosh Chodesh? What's it supposed to give us each and every Rosh Chodesh? Every other Chag, the days that we say Korban Musaf, are so much more clearly, easily understood. Shabbos, testimony, Hashem Yisbarach created the world, a day of Menucha, a day of Eidos, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Boirei the Olam. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, each have their message. Zman Cheruseinu, Zman Matan Torasenu, Zman Simchosenu, and each one, the message is clear. It needs to be internalized, it needs to be integrated, it needs to be lived with. But we understand what it's about. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Adin, Yom HaZikaron, Yom Kippur, Yom HaMechila, Slicha v'Chapara. What's Rosh Chodesh about? It doesn't seem to have a powerful effect upon us that we could relate to easily. And obviously, if there's something there that's hidden and needs to be explored more deeply, whatever we're going to get at the end, the message at the end is going to be even more profound, more important for us. So to begin, Be'ez Hashem, hopefully with Hashem Yisbarach's help, later on we will discuss more about the individual message of each month, personally, if we use that word, what each particular specific month teaches us and has to offer us. But to begin maybe with a word of introduction about Rosh Chodesh B'chlal, what's happening every time we experience a Rosh Chodesh. The tefillah, the musaf that we say on Rosh Chodesh, seems to speak in a very special way about Rosh Chodesh as a gift specifically for Klal Yisrael. Rosh Chodeshim la'amcha nosata, to your nation. Haboicher ba'amo Yisrael bi'avo. We have a special place in the world with the chosen nation of Hashem Yisbarach. This Yontif Rosh Chodesh is special for us. Again, to point, it seems to be Rosh Chodesh is just a natural phenomenon. There's a cycle, 29 days, 12 hours, 793 chalakim, that it takes the moon to make a complete revolution around planet Earth and get back to its starting point, begins again. Okay, that's a phenomenon, that's a natural phenomenon that seems more to relate to everybody. But yet the gift of appreciating the Yom Tov of Rosh Chodesh, that's special for Klal Yisrael. Rosh Chodesh le'amcha nosato. Again, at the end of the bracha, we say, Ki be'amcha Yisrael b'charto mikol ha'umois. Hashem chose us. We're special. We have a special closeness to Him. Ki be'amcha Yisrael b'charto mikol ha'umois v'chukei Rosh Chodeshim lohem kavata. It's for them, not for anybody else. Because we are Hashem's chosen nation, Baruch Ato Hashem, Kadesh, Yisrael v'Rosh Chodesh. The special kedusha that Hashem gave in all those brachas, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Azmanim, Melech HaKolos, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Yom HaZikaron, and etc. Those are days that it's only the kedushas Yisrael that has the ability to make that day meaningful. To a regular person, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot doesn't relate to him, doesn't talk to him. But to a Yid, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Rosh Chodesh, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Hazmanim. So Rosh Chodesh is special for us as Yidden. We're the ones that have this beautiful gift called Rosh Chodesh. So to understand it a little bit, I would like to give us the ability maybe to begin to appreciate what it's about. The goal of our life, really, as children, we're very much given the perception or the introduction to the concept of Torah and mitzvahs. We could use a simplistic mashal. When a person is born, we give him a suitcase. And through the course of his life, his job is to fill up this suitcase with as many mitzvahs as he can. So every time you put on tefillin, we put a mitzvah in the suitcase. Every time a woman lights Shabbos candles, we put a mitzvah in the suitcase. And every time you say Kriya Shema, every time you put money in the pushka, we put something in your suitcase. You get a mitzvah in your suitcase. And one day we come up, Lachamei V'Esrim Shana, we bring our suitcase with us. What did you do with your life? Those are the only things we take with us. The mitzvahs and ma'asim tov. When we open the suitcase, we take it all out. Wow, look what this person did. Look how much he accomplished. But that's really not the full picture. That's what we tell kids in kindergarten. And there is some level of truth to that also. But the ikar avodah, the real avodah of life, is personal growth. The Vilna Gaon says the purpose that we come to this world is to improve ourselves, to change, to grow, to better ourselves, to become more getlach, more exalted, more uplifted, more living a life where the actions we do are a reflection of the beauty of our neshama, where we're living a life of godliness. All our life experiences that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us are really opportunities, every single one of them, to express godly character within living that situation. If we're taking our child to the doctor, or going out with our spouse for anniversary dinner, or we're waiting in line in the supermarket to buy things that my wife needs to bake a birthday cake for my 3-year-old child. Every life experience is a way, an opportunity to express godliness, to be living and emulating Hashem's goodness in the way we live our life. And we need to better ourselves, become more in touch, to become, as we go through life, kinder people, more sensitive and understanding to other people's feelings, more truthful, more honest with ourselves, more honest with others. We're constantly growing, more understanding, more empathetic, more strong, that we don't break from difficulties. We have strength of character to deal with the challenge, to grow from the challenge, to be able to give to others, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, that's the goal of our life, to become closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through emulating Him, and through internalizing the message of the mitzvah, of each and every mitzvah. The poison, the danger, is when a person begins to stagnate. Unfortunately, so painfully. Many years ago, there was a problem of children at risk. Today, there's a phenomenon of adults at risk. People that were from keeping Shabbos, eating kosher, v'chulei, davening officially at least Hakal Panim 3 times a day, going to shul, and at the age 28, 35, 45, people just leave it and walk away. There's something that there's no growth, there's no connection, there's no passion, they're not appreciating. It's all just being done, the external action, a hollow shell without any life in it, and it becomes meaningless. It's not talking to them. When a person is involved in growth, there's always new vistas, there's always new peaks to climb, new obstacles, new challenges to overcome. There's always personal growth. If you're not living with personal growth, it just becomes boring, and it becomes like just a pain and ridiculous. And people, unfortunately, leave the beauty of Torah and mitzvahs. They just leave it behind because they're not living its beauty. The gift of renewal. Rosh Chodesh is so much in touch with human nature. We could only put koiches and go and do and accomplish for a certain amount of time. After a little bit, we peak, we begin to take, let's say, using a muscle in life, a person begins a new project, he's hired by a company to, build their social media advertising base. And at the beginning, you're learning the ropes and you begin to build up and you get good at it. And after a while, you know what? You just get good at it and you're used to it and it begins to become boring, schleppy. The gift of Rosh Chodesh is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us, because we're involved in the work of growing, of becoming bigger, of bettering ourselves, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the gift of Rosh Chodesh, constant renewal, ushuas nafsham miyad soinei. It's a Yeshua, salvation for the soul, miyad soinei, from the enemy. And the enemy is not external. The enemy is internal. It's the enemy of burnout. It's the enemy of being like, come on, another day going to the office, another night coming home to help my wife with the kids. Chas v'shalom. It's the poison. It's the greatest enemy. It makes us lose passion for life, living life with cheshek, luster, vitality, because we get burnt out. And in this drive, in this striving for bringing out literally the infinite goodness, greatness that's buried inside every one of ourselves, Rosh Chodesh is such a critical key. There's always new. There's always some beginning again. And the cycle of the light of the moon, which represents the power of a person's neshama to bring light to the world through the darkness, to reflect the light of the sun, reflect the light of Hashem's godliness, and light up the world. The olam is nelam. Hashem's presence is hidden. We're the ones reflecting His light through the life we live. And just like the moon gets brighter and brighter and brighter in the 15th of the month, it's a full moon. I remember once I walked from Bayit Vagan to Har Nov. I was in yeshiva for Shabbos, and my niece had Baruch Hashem a baby boy. I walked after the meal in yeshiva Bayit Vagan to Har Nov for the Su'uda, for the Shalom Zachar. And I remember then it was a full moon, and I took a shortcut through the forest, and it was so powerful, the impact that the moon had walking through the forest, because it really made it lighter and so much easier to see. We grew up in a modern world, we have street lights and everything else. It's hard for us to recognize where the moon is in its cycle, the beginning of the month, the end of the month, the middle of the month. But that's what's happening. In the middle of the month, the moon is bright and full. And as the month progresses, the moon begins to wane and it gets smaller until eventually it disappears. And that's reflective to what's going on inside a person's soul also. But then we have Rosh Chodesh. It's not over. We start again. Rededication. New energy. B'chlal, as we all know, the Michtam Eliyahu says something so beautiful about the cycle of a year, that every single month it's like a spiral staircase that's going higher and higher, but every 354 steps, if we say it that way, and every step exactly, each level higher is exactly over one below. And every single year, as we go through the year, every month has a different power to it. Every month has a different message, a different opportunity, a different something to work on, a different spiritual koyach, and a different way it talks to our neshama. And it's through going through the cycle of the year. Every year we experience Pesach each year, but it's not the same Pesach. Last year I experienced Pesach when I was 19, or 37, or 42. And now I'm 20, 38, 43. I'm a different person. I learned so much over the past year. I need Pesach again to talk to me for the person I am now. Every year is a cycle in the big picture, the broad picture of a shana, of a year. Every year is a cycle of growth. And every month has its own special, unique place, its own part to play in the cycle of growth that I experience as a person, to grow higher and higher. This is the special gift of a Yid. Other people, you got to be a decent person. You have to be a good human being. But a Yid has to strive for greatness. A Yid has to strive for the highest levels of perfecting our character, never resting on our laurels, never feeling, I'm good enough the way I am. Obviously, in parentheses, we need to be so proud and happy with where we've gotten to in life. We need to have satisfaction, gratefulness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for every bit of personal growth that we do have. But at the same time, bad bevad, we're yearning for more. We're striving for more. We're looking to grow ever higher as we go through experiencing life in its fullest. And this is the gift of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodeshim la'amcha nasata. The word Chodesh ki yadua, which means a month, is exactly related to the word Chodesh, new. If we look in the cycle of a year, just to sort of help us feel this a little bit more, actually we'll take a step back even first. Every day, hamchadesh betuvoi b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereishis. Every day, when His goodness, Hashem makes new the ma'aseh bereishis. Kipshutai, there's many different ways to relate to this. The sentence we say in davening, Hamchadesh betuvai kipshutai, means that Hashem is constantly renewing the world. The Balatanya, every second Hashem is infusing life energy into the world. Betuvai, with His kindness, Hashem with His goodness, literally, and every day with His goodness, Hashem gives us new, like whatever we did yesterday. But even less than that, just the fact that it's new opportunity. At night the sun sets. The energy for life, all photosynthesis comes to an end. If we can imagine a factory with thousands of lights burning and machines whirring, and so much electromagnetic is permeated through the building with all the different machines and electrical things that are going on. And at night, all the workers leave, and the foreman, the last guy out, hits the switch, and all the whirring, all the machines come to a stop, all the lights go off, and all of a sudden, it's not just that things aren't happening, like there's such a shutdown of energy. It's peace, it's quiet. That's what happens to planet Earth. If we're sensitive to it during the day, the sun comes up, it's the motor that drives thousands and thousands and thousands, really millions upon millions of kilowatts of energy, of photosynthesis and life energy. And to a human being also, the sun gives us koyach, it energizes us, gives our body strength, produces vitamin D, which gives us koyach, excitement. Make sure to go outside in the morning, take a walk, enjoy the sun, let it shine on you. Get energized by it, feel its power. And at nighttime, the sun sets, the world comes to a close, and people get tired. You go to sleep, you wake up tomorrow. It's a mechadesh betuvay. That itself is a gift in a microcosm, in a small way. New opportunity, new beginning. Yesterday, whatever you got done, whatever you got accomplished in the middle of the day, we got burnt out, we got frustrated, things aren't going right. Wake up tomorrow, you walk outside, you hear the birds chirping, the sun is shining, feel the breeze on your face. New day, new opportunity. Come on, let's get to it again. That's the gift. Hamachadesh, Hashem purposely created the world in this way. That's the tuvay. And it's also true if you look on the grander scale of a month, if you look at a year as a whole, the year also has a cycle, almost, if you want to use it, kemat, like night and day, built into the year. The springtime is like Netzach Hama. Beginning, all the bees, all the trees begin to bud, put out their new leaves, flowers, the birds are having nests, the sheep are giving birth, and the cows, and so on and so forth. The new burst of life, new energy, new growth. Love shukar matzayin. Everything's beginning again, new life. Fakert, the opposite side, at the end of the summer, the end of the growing season, gathering Chag Osif, all the things grew. Now the days begin to get shorter. Doesn't go away totally unless you live above the Arctic Circle, but the days begin to get shorter. The nighttime is longer. The trees drop their leaves, and the world again sort of comes to a rest. It's like the nighttime within the cycle of the year. Nisan is the beginning of the morning. The year has a new beginning. And we live that. We know after the whole long winter, the winter blues, less light energy from the sun. It takes away from people a little bit the vitamin D, the simchas hachayim, and so on and so forth. People that live in areas that are cloudy and overcast for more days of the year, in generally have a greater tendency to depression, to feeling a lack of energy, and so on and so forth. It really plays a role. And it's incumbent upon all of us, to make sure to get as much exposure to the sun as possible, to be able to feel the power, to be energized, to feel the simcha that the sunlight gives us. Within the year, there's a mechadesh, there's a new beginning of the year. That's Rosh Chodesh Nisan, when the world begins to explode with all its growth, with all its new life. And we feel that. At the end of the winter, we feel spring cleaning, everybody, get up, refreshing the house, open the windows, air out the mattresses, and, it's beautiful outside, spring, and flowers are growing. it's a chiddush in the neshama, and it's beautiful for us. The cycle of the month is like the bridge between the day and the year, where there's a monthly cycle where we could dedicate ourselves for 30 days, 29 and a half actually, but to dedicate ourselves to a certain mission, to a certain specific koyach that time of the year is giving to us, is allowing us to tap into, allowing us to grow from. The Heilige B'nai Yissaschar wrote his Sefer, Be'ikr, based on this beautiful reality, on recognizing the different power of each and every month, recognizing the unique growth that each and every month has to give to us. The B'nai Yissaschar wrote, based upon the Sefer Yetzirah, which is Miyuchas to Avram Avinu. It's fascinating that we have a Sefer today that was written. It's Miyuchas to Avram Avinu from, so many years ago, 3,500 years ago, Berach. I remember exactly, maybe a little bit more, but Berach Mashu Kazeh. And the Sefer Yetzirah goes through the 12 different months of the year, the different specific koiches and power of each month that it gives us uniquely. Each month has its own tziruf of a Shem Havaya. Each month has a different combination of the 4 letters of Hashem Yisbarach's name. The Yud Kei Vav Kei, the 4 letters, each letter represents Chachma, Bina, Chesed Gvut Tveres Netzach, Hoid, Yisoid, and the final Hey is Malchus. Each letter represents a different power. And the 4 letters of Hashem's name, when we combine them in the different possible ways, the different possible combinations, each one represents a different ruchniistic energy. And the B'nai Yissaschar brings down that when a person makes the bracha, Baruch Ato Hashem Mekadesh Yisrael V'Rosh Chodesh, he should be mechaven for the tziruf havaya of that month. It's Kabbalistic, it's deep, we don't understand it exactly, obviously, but there's something very basic that we all could relate to. We're trying to tap in each month to the power of this month. Rosh Chodesh Adar is not the same as Rosh Chodesh Av. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz is not the same as Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Every month has a different, unique personality to it, a different energy to it, a different something that we could take and grow. And that's the special gift. It's part of the cycle of our life of broadening and growing higher and higher. Is part of the cycle of our life, is tapping into the beautiful power of renewal. If we could give a mashal maybe at some level, again, maybe we'll share 2 things, but you think of a student who went through 9th grade. They're learning, at least when I was a kid, I know things are very different today, but in 9th grade, we learned trigonometry. No, that was 11th grade. Kids, or whatever, different kinds of math, right? Algebra. So you had your teacher, at the beginning of the year, you come, you study, you got whatever you got out of it, but as time goes on, gets sluggish, gets burnt out. Next year, take a break. Next year, you begin again. You have a new teacher, and now you're learning a new math, calculus. You're learning a new math subject. So it's a new beginning, new things, new concepts. You could throw yourself into it because it's exciting to you. It's new. Sometimes you could look at it. It's even switching from math to science. Now you're learning biology or chemistry or physics instead of learning math. But every single month has its own unique energy that it gives to us. But within the neshama, within the soul, within my being, the power to connect. Each of the months, and with Hashem Yisbarach's help, and Mitzvah Hashem, as we get to it further on, we'll discuss more specifically how each month relates to a certain part of a body, a different month of the year, a certain koiches hanefesh of a person, speech, sleep, laughter. Each month is meant to enrich our life. Each month relates to a different shevet. Each month relates to a different letter of the aleph base. Each month of the year has the tziruf havaya of that month alluded to in a pasuk, a specific pasuk that relates and teaches us something about the energy of that month of the year. It's a fascinating journey. It's fascinating discovery to be able to be in touch with. But the ikr, the foundation for all of this is that it's chidush. It's new. If it's thinking about, the mashal, certain animals, certain insects molt. A snake molts its skin a few times a year. Certain insects go through not complete metamorphosis, incomplete metamorphosis, but they molt, they shed their external skeleton, their skin, and they step out of their old skin with their new skin and bigger, eventually till they reach full size, till they reach adult size. A snake actually continue shedding its skin its whole life long, till the day it dies. It's always growing, and its old skin gets small. And that's sort of what's happening inside of us. We grow, we maximize our potential, so to say, within this environment, within this area. And now we sort of like step free. We break out of the skin, and we're bigger, better, and ready to start to conquer new mountains, ready to start accomplishing new and more beautiful things. I want to maybe end this introductory, this really two more in Yanim, but maybe today we'll focus on one more. Besides personal growth, there's another very, very important element related to Chiddush, to renewal. You know, if you look at human nature, we crave things new. People get bored of almost anything. A person buys a brand new car. It's a beautiful car. And he loves it. And he's like, oh, mine's geschmack. And he loves his car. And he's enjoying it so much. But after a while, what happens? You meet him 3 months later, 6 months later, it's a car. You know, takes him to work, takes him to the supermarket. That original spark, that original excitement and luster is gone. We crave Chiddush. Nowhere, maybe not nowhere, but almost nowhere else is this more true as it is in relationships. And what I want to focus on is there's two ways to have new in relationships. One is to have new relationships. The other is, and this is really what we crave, is a newer and greater depth in a pre-existing relationship. Some people spend their life always going around from person to person, looking in this and that, trying this, trying that, and 2 months with this one, and 3 months with that one, and 6 months with that one, and 2 days with this one. There's always new, but the new stays shallow, superficial, surface level. It never gets deep. What we really crave is a deep, intense connection, a beautiful, meaningful relationship. In Rosh Chodesh Musaf, part of the tefillah that we say also is Ahavas oilam tavi lohem uvris avos labonim tizkor. Ahavas oilam tavi lohem. Eternal love you should bring for them. Uvris avos labonim tizkor. The bris, the contract, an agreement of the fathers, labonim tizkor. You should remember for the children. There's something about this relationship between us and Hashem Yisbarach being eternal. Ahavas oilam. It's an eternal love. It's never going to end. And the truth is, the only way it's never going to end is if it's always getting deeper. If it's going to try to stay where it is, it's going to stagnate. It's going to fall apart. It needs to have movement. The idea that it says in Tazveni Yoim Yamayim Azveka, the famous mashal people say, you're like life, you're on a mountain. If you're not going up, then gravity is going to pull you down. There's something that pulls for this connection. And unless we're investing in creating greater and deeper depth in our relationships, it's true about our interpersonal relationships as well. A person gets married, he's young, he met a spouse, him or her. They choose to build a future together, to build an eternity together for real. Ba'ilam hazeh, ba'ilam haba, children, grandchildren. How much do you really know each other already? Whatever way you dated, the Hasidic way you sat together for 15 minutes, or the Litvish way you dated for, 7, 8, 9 times for a few hours each, or we'll call it the modern Orthodox way where you dated for 6 months or 8 months and just hang out all the time. But Sach HaKol, at the end of the day, what does it really mean to live with this person forever? It needs to be a relationship with 10 years later. We're not just still married. We're 10 years into the marriage. How much more do we know about each other? When we're working on building and deepening the relationship, how much more do we understand each other? How much more do we appreciate each other? How much more do we respect each other? How many thousands of hours of discussion about life and about personal growth and about togetherness and just sharing stories, sharing time together. The relationship, had it been that it's the same thing 10 years later, and chas v'shalom, sometimes it happens to people, where they lose the ability to keep deepening the relationship And that's what ends up happening. They just drift apart. They fall apart. The relationship doesn't necessarily have to be that there's bitterness and anger and, fighting around. They just drift away. It's so sad. It's so sad. Sometimes we could say, they weren't really meant for each other in the first place. They were younger. They didn't really realize. But you know when it's really sad? When you know that it's a relationship that had what it takes to be a great relationship. They used to be crazy about each other. They so appreciated each other, for real. They appreciate each other's milas. But just by the lack of investing and deepening, strengthening, making the kesher more meaningful, it just begins to die. It begins to wither. It loses its life, loses its luster, and that's really sad. And this is another part of the Rosh Chodesh story. Ahavas olam tavi lahem. It's about always renewing the kesher. And here's the last idea I wanted to share. It's a famous concept Rabbeinu Tam writes in Sefer HaYosher, and other Sfarim speak about Yemei Ahava and Yemei Sinah. There are days of love and days of closeness, and there are days of distance, days of sinah, of hate, which is not being deeply connected, not living tightly together. In every relationship, it's true about a person's relationship with his family. It's true about a person's relationship with Hashem. It's true about a person's relationship with his job, with his business, with his coworkers, with his learning, with his davening. There's Yemei Ahava. There are days where we feel the passion. We're connected. We love davening. We love learning. So happy to go home to the wife, the husband, like we're happy to go home to each other. We love our kids. And there are days where we feel like, we feel burdened by the relationship. We feel encumbered. Just leave me alone. Just, I have to go daven again, and I have to go, I remember a few years ago, a Bachar in Yeshiva came over to me. It was the beginning of the winter Zman, like about now. But it was a few days, 2-3 days into the Zman. And he said to me, Rebbe, I need to ask you, what am I going to, how do I make sure that that I'm learning so great now, I'm steiging, I'm loving it. How do I make sure that I don't lose that? And I said to him, I think there's a much more important question. A much more real question. How do I make sure that when I lose that, it doesn't break me? Because it's not going to stay like this forever. Don't be foolish. It's the beginning of the Zman. You're excited. You come back. New Masechta, new Chavrusas, new Yeshiva, whatever it was. But it doesn't stay like that forever. We all know the reality of life is that we do get burnt out. We do lose the drive. There's Yemei Ava and there's Yemei Sinah. The difference between the Bachar that has a successful year in Yeshiva of growth or the one that unfortunately doesn't is not that he had Yemei Ava straight through and he got hit by Yemei Sinah. He knew and understood and handled correctly the Yemei Sinah. And the other guy just gave up when the Yemei Sinah hit. So the more important question is, how do we deal with Yemei Sinah? How do we understand it? How do we integrate it into our life? And here's the key. If we could imagine on a graph, a person is growing, and again, within a relationship, you're deepening your connection to something. And as time goes on, beginning, you're chugging up. As time goes on, you start slowing down, and you're not chugging up anymore. You're chugging up. You lose it. You lose the power. Now what do? Sometimes the distance, not just sometimes, the Svarim speak about the gift of Richuk is that it creates a yearning for the kiruv. When you lose an appreciation for the closeness and you begin to feel distant, like right now, leave me alone, and then as time goes on, you become wistful. I miss so much the closeness. I miss those Yemei Ahava. And you begin to yearn for it again. And that's when you come back with a renewed appreciation, with a renewed dedication to this relationship, because you realize how much it enriched your life. And the Yemei Sinah serves a purpose of bringing us back to the relationship with a greater power, with a greater connection. If we could imagine on a graph, the line they say, if somebody has on an EKG machine a straight line, a flat line, that means the man's dead. So we're looking in life, this Yemei Av and Yemei Sinah, there's ups and downs, and that's how you go through life. It doesn't always stay flat, then you're dead. You have days where you're excited, and days where you're not, and days where it's so beautiful to do it, and some days where you do it and you feel like, oh, what am I doing this for? Anyway, kind of thing. But that's when you're alive. But I want to share with you, it's not really like a graph or like a regular one. It's not like an EKG. Because in EKG, there's up and down and up and down and up and down. In the cycle of life, of Yemei Ava and Yemei Sinna, of building long-term, lasting relationships, which are based on the relationship deepening and becoming more meaningful and more intense to each of the two people involved in it, if we could envision the graph, it would go like this: up, down, up, down, up, down, up. The ups each time after the down are meant to be higher than the previous one. The distance that we had over that time period created within us the recognition, the realization of how much we're missing by not having this kesher. And we come back to it with a greater determination, with greater investment, with greater appreciation, and the relationship deepens and becomes stronger. The wise man is the one that recognizes the Yemei Asina as part of the process to getting to an even greater Yemei Ava afterwards. And he integrates it. He integrates this into his life, whether it's with his friends, whether it's with family, whether it's with Torah and mitzvahs, and with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what Rosh Chodesh is meant to give us. Rosh Chodesh is the cycle of creating an ever deepening and ever more meaningful relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That greater light is a greater level of connection to Him. It's Ahavas Olam Tavi Lahem. This eternal love, a love that's never going to burn out, because it's a love that's always getting deeper and more intense and more beautiful to each of us who are involved in being Erlich Yidden. We should be Zoicha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should open our hearts to feel His endless love for us. He should open our hearts to feel, to appreciate and recognize how much endless potential we have. The beauty of our neshama, to emulate Him, to grow, and through growing and through emulating Him, to create an ever deeper, more real, more true, passionate, and wonderful relationship with Him. A good gebenchte Chodesh. You should be all bezeicha to a beautiful, happy, successful new year, a year of growth, of steiging, of bracha and atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadechem. And we should be zeicha be'ezus Hashem, that this year we should all together witness and go to dance Or Chodesh Al Tzion Torah. We should see that new light, the light of the complete revelation of Hashem's goodness to the world. With Bish Mashiach Tzidkenu, Bebinim Beis Hamikdash, B'mheira B'yameinu Amen.